Welcome to Forum 360. I'm your host, Leah Love, and thank you for joining us for a global outlook with a local view. Today, I am so excited because we have the Honorable Judge David Hamilton, and he is going to talk to us about a fresh perspective from the justice system. So thank you for joining us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, you are the current youngest judge sitting on the Akron Municipal Court, correct?
Correct.
Now tell me, what has been your journey to getting to this point?
Well, start off, of course, I grew up in Akron and, went to law school and I went to law school in Michigan. But the reason why I went to law school was because I wanted to use my law degree to help the community, my community where I'm from. And so I came back with that purpose. And when I got back, I started off at the prosecutor's office and then I ran for county council. I represented the 5th District of Summit County, which encompassed the West Akron, which is the area I grew up in, my neighborhood. So worked as a councilman, worked as an attorney, worked for one of our local judges as the judicial attorney. Learned a lot as a prosecutor and as a judicial attorney about the court structure in our court, in Akron Municipal Court, and then the opportunity came up for me to run. And the Democratic Party at the time, they were very interested in getting a minority candidate, electing a minority candidate, and I applied, filled out all the stuff, and had the interview, and then got the nomination, and then ran, and I won.
Okay.
I'm here.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, is this, you think, your final stop? Do you have bigger plans, bigger goals?
I don't think it's my final stop, but I really believe in divine intervention, and I believe that wherever God wants me to go, that's where I'll be. That's where I'm going to go. But I don't think this is my final stop, but I know that while I'm here, I want to make a huge difference, and I want to be here long enough to do that.
Okay. So what is your hope with this position?
That I could really make change, significant change in our community, that the people that come in front of me, they will have hope, that they will get a fair shake, that I can instill a sense of that people know that I care about them, I care about what happens to them, and that I'm fair and upright, and I'll listen and I'll be firm but fair when I need to be. So my hope is just that I could do a lot of good for our community and give people hope in our criminal justice system by me, just my presence on the bench and my demeanor.
Now, for those who aren't aware of the different types of courts, what are the different types of courts that are in the system?
So we have the juvenile court. We've got where that's just one judge. That's Judge Teodosio. She runs the whole juvenile court. We have probate court, which is one judge. We have then we have the Court of Common Pleas. So I think there's maybe a bunch of judges there, and those are all our county judges. And then we have Akron Municipal Court, which is the court I serve in. Okay. And there are 6 judges there, including myself. And we deal with primarily, all misdemeanors. So misdemeanor traffic, misdemeanor domestic violence cases, misdemeanor assault cases. So we are the misdemeanor court. Okay.
Now, in terms of dealing with reoffenders,
sure.
What is your policy towards dealing with them and trying to help them not continue to be reoffenders?
I think with programming, and that's one thing I would like to start. One of the things you can do as a judge is start a specialty court, and so I want to start a specialty court dealing with it's more or less like a diversionary court, so that we can kind of address that. Right, because a lot of times, especially in Akron Municipal Court, being a municipal court judge, you have a little bit more discretion in your sentencing, I believe, because the folks that we typically deal with are not career criminals. They just might have messed up. They had a bad night. They got disorderly conduct. They got an OVI or something. But we're not dealing with those higher level crimes like rape and murder and those type of things. A lot of the crimes that these folks do, you can kind of get your life back on track. And I think with diversionary programs and special programming, I think that we can stop people from reoffending. At least put maybe not stop it completely, but I think you can help a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Help decrease those numbers.
Yeah, help decrease the numbers so they don't reoffend and that you give them programs that they need that will actually help them. Because sometimes, people commit crimes not because they have issues with drugs or alcohol, and they're not criminals. They just have a sickness. It's a disease, and they're going to do whatever it takes to fulfill that void. And so, if you can somehow, with programming, if you can deal with the root issue, you may be able to deal with the reoffending.
Now, you said you have opportunities to create different things. What other types of things are you able to do in your position?
Well, pretty much as a judge, you rule on evidence. You determine on what comes in, what doesn't come in, what the jury hears, what they don't hear. You make sure that your docket is manageable, because we only have you only have a certain amount of time to try a case, and you want to make sure that the folks that come in front of you, their speedy trial rights aren't violated. So typically you rule on evidence, you start programs, but you really just make sure your case docket is moving fluid, and that people are getting their just due.
Okay. How are you preparing yourself to be a strong force while handling those who may say he's going to be light on me because we have commonalities?
I think it's a balance. I really do. I think it's a balance. I mean, you got to walk a thin line, but at the end of the day, I've had some tough cases already where it's like, I really want to make sure I make the right decision. So it's a balance. You have to determine, when to be tough and when to, I think at the end of the day, it's just about being fair. And, I don't really say that I'm tough on crime. I just say that I'm fair all the way around. There's sentences, sometimes I'll send someone to jail, sometimes it's probation. It just depends on the circumstances and the facts. And the thing is, I'm not working alone, right? We got the prosecutors who do their job, and they bring the recommended sentence to me. I talk to them, I talk to the defense attorney, and we come to a consensus on things. So I'm usually not the only one. Like, I'm the final decision maker when it comes to sentencing, but I do listen to the prosecutors. I do listen to the public defenders or the defense attorneys and try to come up with something that's fair.
Okay. Now, what do you tell people who feel like they haven't been treated fairly by a judge?
What do I tell people?
Like, if somebody says that they've gone through a process and they don't feel like the judge ruled in a fair manner or correct manner, or, people are trying to understand what was the criteria for them to deliver the sentencing that they delivered?
Well, I really can't tell them much of anything because I'm not allowed to, but I would say, because that has happened to me before, someone has, and I had to tell them that. I think, really when it comes to the judges, we're all independently elected, and, they have a job to do just like I have a job to do, and that's why it's good that you have to have a good attorney, someone who will take time with your case and help you understand and walk you through it. But at the end of the day, if a judge makes a decision, I can't overturn it. It's unfortunate, but we all have our standard, and I think that's why I really strive to be fair. But that doesn't mean people think that I'm fair. They may not like the sentence. I had a guy who I said, hey, this isn't he needs a little bit more time. He needs more probation, or he needs more community service hours. And that was outside of what the prosecutor wanted. But I said, this guy has dealt with this issue before. And, punishment or your sentence as a judge is supposed to serve as a deterrent at the end of the day, to stop recidivism, right? To, like you said, to stop people from committing crimes again. So, at the same time, as a judge, you have to be fair, but with your sentencing, I always keep in the back of my mind, well, is this going to be a deterrent for this person? Because a sentence is not supposed to be convenient for anybody, right? It's supposed to be a deterrent to stop you. So that's something that I think about all the time, that, part of being fair is also making sure that what you have is a deterrent to people so they don't commit the same crime. At least they think about doing it again, right? Or not doing it.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the impact and the importance of diversity in the judiciary system.
Okay.
What is your take on that?
I think it's very important. That's the main reason why I ran, because, we didn't have, most of the people, so black males make up only 7% of the population in Summit County, 7%, but they make up 40% of the population in the Summit County jail. Like right now, those are the statistics. And out of 35 judges in the entire county, here in Summit County, there isn't, until me, there wasn't a judge that looked like them at all. All of our county judges are women, and our municipal court judges were half men, half women, and we didn't have anyone of color except for Judge Williams. And we didn't have any black male judges. And we haven't had any black male judges in 2 decades elected to the bench since Judge Williams, James Williams, her father-in-law. So, 2 decades of not having someone that looks like the majority of people that we serve was something that really spoke to me. And I felt that it was my opportunity and my way to serve the community by running and put myself out there again and running. Because I never planned on running for judge. I was just still in my first term as a councilman. My term was 4 years. I would have been running for council this year, so I would have been in my 4th year. So I never thought about running for judge, but I felt like it was my time to do it. After talking to so many people and asking if they were running, they're like, I'm not going to run. It's too much money. You got to raise, and I'm put myself out there. And I was actually on the committee, the Judicial Search Committee, for 2 years, since 2016. And we couldn't find a African American candidate, let alone a black male candidate to run.
Why do you think that is?
I think that the pipeline, for one, is a hindrance because you gotta understand something. We don't have many minorities going to law school. So in order to be a judge, you gotta go through law school, then you gotta graduate law school, then you gotta pass the bar, then you gotta be an attorney for at least 6 years in good standing to even run. And then when you run, you gotta raise some money. These races are really, really expensive. You gotta raise the money, you gotta put your own money in, and you gotta give up a lot of time with your family, your friends, or even on your job. So I think there's just a long line of a list of reasons, but I think the number one reason is the fact that we gotta get more minorities in law school to even do it. Because that's the first step to being a judge is you gotta go to law school. So how do we do that? How do we, what's the pipeline like? How are we going to get minorities in law school? So I think that's a big thing. And again, so that's why I ran, because I looked at 10 years, like who I am now and where I am. And I'm looking at the young kids coming into law school, and they're like, I'm not running for judge, or we don't have that many, especially we don't have that many black men in law school. So I just knew that if not me, then who would do it?
Awesome. If you are just tuning in, we are talking to Judge David Hamilton, and he's giving us a fresh perspective on the justice system for the Akron Municipal Court. All right, so do you foresee any challenges in your role? And what would those challenges be?
Challenges, I think for me, because I spent so much time as a prosecutor in that court, I'm very comfortable. I think the only challenge would be that I'm new as a judge, and just having, being familiar with the law and, and certain nuances, because there's a lot of nuances there. And I know there's a lot of things that I don't know, but there's also another challenge would be just being comfortable with being on the bench and comfortable with making a decision and sticking with it and not second guessing myself.
Now let me ask you this.
Sure.
You said you were fairly new in the arena.
Yeah.
How were you able to maneuver through to raise all the money and gain the support that you needed to win the election?
That's a good question. So I was already a councilman, so I had a base, but I never ran citywide, and so it was a bigger race for me. But I think what really helped me was I had tremendous favor throughout the race. But I had a lot of relationships that were established with a lot of other elected officials, and it helped on campaigns. Since when I got back from law school in 2012, I helped on the Obama campaign. I was a field organizer, so I got a lot of connections from that. And then I helped on, Representative or Minority Leader Amelia Sykes' first campaign, and Marco Somerville's first campaign, and countless others. I worked on judicial campaigns, Judge Cable's campaign, in 2017. And all these folks that I helped, they won. And, Amelia is the minority leader of the Ohio House. She's the youngest there. and Margot is the council president now. So she's the first African American woman council president. So it's like, I think that, you know, when you help other people, it helps you because you get to meet other people and then they help you. You know, sometimes it doesn't always work like that. But I mean, I think for me, I helped on people's campaigns that I believed in, not for them just to help me, because that really wasn't it. It was more so I really believed in them. But as a byproduct of me helping them, I got to meet more people, and by knocking on doors and, you know, and just doing everything I needed to do, when you start working and people see you working and they see your yard signs everywhere, then they want to be a part of it because they feel like, I mean, everyone wants to be on a winning team. Like, we all have that, you know, in us to be on a winning team. And I think when people see you out there working, they either want to help you or it's going to motivate them to work harder to beat you.
Okay, understandably.
Yeah.
I know that your family has to be proud of you, and I'm sure.
Most of them.
I know that the community is extremely proud of you, and they have been very supportive of you. Do you feel like you have any unrealistic expectations that maybe anybody has set on you, or are you afraid to let them down? How do you feel about them in that role?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. I think that, I mean, you know, I can't even go out anymore and like have a good time, you know, like in my city, because it's like, that's what I'm that's the part I have to get used to, right? It's not even so much about me being on the bench, but what I struggle with is like, I'm still young. So that's the thing, like I'm the youngest judge in the county and probably the youngest ever, or one of the youngest ever. So with that comes, you know, I'm still like, I'm not married, I don't have any kids. So it's like, well, what else am I going to do after work, right? Or on the weekends? Like, I still like to have a good time. Not in a bad way.
I know,
we record.
It's kind of like a pastor, you know, they want to go out and everybody's...
and it's like, you know, and you just want to just have a good time and, you know, and just be with your friends and like not even be a judge, right? You just want to be like, I just want to wear sweatpants or jeans or whatever and just, you know, hang out, you know, but it's like people recognize you. And I think that people, when they recognize you, they put like, and they'll tell someone else, I just saw him this and that. And it's like, it's unrealistic. Like, I'm still a person. Like, I still like to have a good time. I still like to listen to music and still like to go out and be with my friends, you know. But it's like, but when you're a judge, it's like, oh, you can't really do that. We need you to be like, always be in the office, reading a book, you know, like ready to do justice, you know. So that's something that you're ready to do justice at any given moment. Like, you wake up in the robe, you go to sleep in the robe. So it's like, I'm trying to still figure that out. So it's a difficult adjustment for sure, but it's good. I wouldn't change it. I mean, that's just a small part of the sacrifice that you gotta make. So.
And you'll get it.
You'll
get it great. You'll get it great. So I know you've had your first trial.
Yeah.
How did you prepare for that, and what was it like, the excitement leading up to that?
Well, you know, so that was in my first week of being a judge. Because what happened is I took over for the lady that I ran against. And so when you take over for another judge in the middle of the cycle, you take on their caseload. And so I literally, my first week on the bench, I had a jury trial on, I think it was a Tuesday. So I started work Monday, I had a jury trial on Tuesday. And it was difficult because of the case. Because we actually had a guy who represented himself, but he happened to be an attorney. So he was pro se, but he was an attorney. And so it was just things that you typically wouldn't see in a trial because of that. And so, I mean, having to do jury instructions and having to get, you know, I got a new staff. Like, not only am I new, but my staff is new. My bailiff's new, my attorney's new. I mean, we're all new, and we got a trial. So, but we got through it. We stumbled through it, but we got through it. We got through it for sure. But
it'll be one you never forget.
It will be one I will never ever forget. That's for sure. But yeah, I was a little nervous, but for some reason I was also kind of calm too, because it's like, you know, at the end of the day, like what I kept telling myself is the voters elected me here, so they believe in me, and my community believes in me, so it's all good. I mean, as long as I'm fair and as long as I try my best, like I have their full support. You know, I won by a good margin, and they believe in me. So whatever happens, this is, You know, y'all put me here. You know, don't blame me.
All right, so let's get to know you a little bit off
Sure.
of the bench since you mentioned that.
Sure.
So you have some programs that you have started, the My Stars program?
Yeah, so I started that when I was a county councilman back in 2017. And it's a program geared towards at-risk youth in what was in my district, to give them opportunities to learn things that they typically don't learn in school. And it's for rising 6th to 8th graders. And the reason why we chose that age group was because most of the time people really only have programs for small kids or kids on their way to college. But like that gap, that 12-year-old between 10 and 12-year-olds, there really aren't many programs. But that is the most pivotal time. Research shows that's the most pivotal time in a child's life, because that's when they start to grow into who they're going to be at 12 years old. So it's either they can go one way or the other. So you have that time with them to really mold them and to kind of changing their life trajectory, so to speak. And I think that this program really did that for a lot of kids. It really, exposed them to things that they typically don't learn in school. So we did work with Emmanuel Christian this year, and it was so successful. I mean, they came up with business plans. When they graduated, it was they broke up into teams. So we took 40 kids that were in the program, and they broke up into 3 teams, and they all presented a business plan. I mean, they had like PowerPoint, they had like the binders with their business models in it. I mean, they learned so many things. They learned how to start a small business. They learned public speaking. They learned financial literacy. I mean, they learned so much in the summer that it kind of inspired and motivated them to start really doing some other things and thinking about other things, because a lot of these kids, if it wasn't for the My Stars, they would be hanging out because their parents can't afford summer camp or their grades aren't good to be in a nice camp. And so what else are they going to be doing? And so I started that program for them. And a lot of those kids were like, even to this day, if they see me out, they're so happy. They say, we doing it again next year? I learned this, I learned that. And it just really is an awesome feeling. And even the folks at Emmanuel Christian, they're like, you know what? We would never have serviced these kids if it wasn't for you. Like, this program is such a good thing for these kids. We won't even, because Emmanuel is a private school, so they get funding. They don't get funding from the government. It's like they get paid from just private dollars. So they wouldn't even have had a camp like this. They have a camp, but you got to pay for it. This camp that we did, that I started with them, was a free camp.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
And it's going to be something that you continue to.
Yeah, so the thing about it is, now that I'm no longer the councilman, even though I started it, I think that, I don't know how hands-on I can be with it now, but I still will be in the background making sure everything is going good. But Veronica Sims, she's a county council person now, and I think she's going to do a great job with it, take it even farther than where I took it, Okay. Gave her a good start.
A lot of times it's just about exposure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is. A lot of times it is all about exposure. Just, oh, wow, I can do this, I can do that. I didn't even know that I even like this, you know? Yeah.
So what do you want your legacy to be?
That I was a servant to my generation. That whatever, that I was a hard worker, that I was determined, and that I was fair and just and a righteous man. And that, that I just treat everyone right and try to do, be the best elected official, whether it's judge or councilman, that I could absolutely be and serve my community.
And is there a person that you admire that really helped to shape and develop who you are?
There was a couple. My mom. My mom was the reason why I'm doing any of this. She wanted me to get into public service to help my community. So my mom definitely, but I would also say Barbara Sykes is another lady in my life that really, 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 I learned so much from her. Also Marco Somerville. I mean, just learned so much from different people that really just took time with me to help me develop and really taught me some life lessons. And so I would definitely say those 3 for sure.
Okay, well, good. We want to thank you so much for coming today.
That was quick. That was quick.
So thank you so much for coming and joining and talking to us today.
Glad to be here.
Giving us a background explanation of the court system, and just being a good example to people across ethnicities and ages that your character and your work can speak louder than your ethnicity and your age. So thank you so much, and thank you everyone for tuning in to Forum 360, where we have a global outlook from a local view. I'm your host, Leah Love. Enjoy your week.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.